Hi, everybody. This is Jody Underhill with Taylor on Tab. Welcome to another edition of Home Service Heroes. And I have one of my very good friends that I've known for over 15 years, all the way back to my days right whenever I was getting started in the industry. And he's one of the foremost experts that I know whenever it comes to HR and PEO. I can't tell you what that is, but he's going to explain that to you here in just a second. I've just said, sit down, get a pen and paper out because he's going to be telling you a lot of cool things that you can do in order to streamline your HR functions, and even a few things that you're not even aware of that you'll be able to take and put into play. So, Bruce, welcome to the podcast. And start off,
Thank you, Jody.
tell us a little bit about you, about your business, and a little bit about what makes you the person that they should be listening to right now.
Well, Jody, I started out in the early 80s with a small insurance company called Prudential.
Oh, little one.
My focus was really helping small business owners with their benefits, with their HR, and with their retirement programs. And over the years, insurance, especially health insurance, was getting more and more challenging. And I found that I got to the point where I really couldn't help my small business owners. The rates kept going up and up, claims weren't getting paid, and I just couldn't service my clients to the degree that they needed to be serviced. So I felt it was important that I go out and find another solution for small business owners. And I think I did. I came across something called employee leasing in those days. And basically, these companies that were known as employee leasing companies, which today have called themselves professional employer organizations, which really truly what they do. They do the same things that every small business has to do. They process the payroll for their employees. They provide workers' compensation for their employees. They provide benefit programs like health insurance and disability insurance, dental insurance and life insurance. And they provide 401k plan and HR expertise. They provide risk managers, and they're doing it for hundreds of thousands of employees. So typically when they're going out to work with an insurance company like Aetna or Blue Cross Blue Shield or United Healthcare, and they're bringing their 100,000 employees, they're getting a much better deal than the average small business can get on their own. What I do is I sit down with business owners. I find out what are their pain points? What issues are they dealing with now? Where do they want to be in 3 to 5 years? And we go out and we find 5 or 6 different companies that can provide them with the quality and level of service that they're looking for. And these companies will compete for their business. And my clients will know to the dime whether or not these companies are going to save them any money or not. And I sit down with the business owners afterwards to determine which company might be the best firm for them. And we consummate the arrangements. I help them with the onboarding. I work with all of their employees to make sure that they're getting the best bang for the buck. Employees are a strange animal. They want to be paid on time. They want to be paid accurately. They want to make sure that all the deductions that you're making for taxes and premiums for insurance and contributions to their 401k are going to the right places. And also, they want to make sure that you have workers' compensation to provide coverage for them in case they're injured on the job. They also, especially today, benefits are very, very important. And if you're looking for the right type of candidate who is looking for not only a job, but is looking for a profession that they can grow in, typically that type of candidate has a family, they have children, and they want to make sure that their family is taken care of.
Right. So let me ask you a question on benefits. So with that, I mean, things are always changing, right? Benefits change depending on what administration is in sometimes. But in looking at the benefits, so there's small businesses, but there's also medium business. So you can help them. I mean, some of our audiences, they're $10 to $50 million. I don't know what you classify as small business or medium business. With that, it doesn't matter really what size the company is. It doesn't have to be small.
Correct. Again, they can have 5 employees, they can have 500 employees.
Okay.
It's just a degree of scope and size, really.
Right. So on the benefits, one of the things that we do, one of the things that we're talking with our clients is when benefits is they should all have the basics, right? They should also all have health, vision, dental, because that's what's expected. Everybody expects to have that. Although some don't, believe it or not. It's like, because they're growing, right? They're starting off, they've got 3 or 4 or 5 employees and they're looking to grow. So that they're in that position of making it, starting to explore that. So this would be a great way for them to be able to explore it and see multiple options without having to spend their time, effort, and energy going out and digging into that themselves. Okay,
That's correct. No, first of all, these companies, they basically do all the work for you, which is why I like working with them. Because just to give you an example of the relationship, when I was an independent broker and I had a client who had an issue with a claim, or his wife needed to get in to see their pediatrician, or they just couldn't get to see a doctor in a reasonable amount of time, I would literally pick up the phone, call the carrier, and perhaps spend 2 hours on the phone trying to get through. And then once I got through, they would tell me that because of HIPAA or some other nonsense argument that they couldn't help me. When I deal with these PEOs, they're literally sending $50 million a month in premium to some of these companies. So if they're sending $50 million a month to Aetna and they call up because one of their employees has an issue, I guarantee you it gets taken care of. There is nothing worse than having an employee whose wife is pregnant, who's trying to get in to see the doctor, and they can't, and he's spending a week worrying about what he's going to do. You might say he gets a little bit distracted and doesn't focus on his work, and that's going on in his life.
Yeah.
So it's not just about the numbers. It's not about saving money in premium, although we do. We save clients thousands and thousands of dollars on their insurance. They get a wide range of benefits. It's a turnkey operation. When you're sitting down with a potential candidate and they're interviewing you just as much as you're interviewing them, and they ask you what kind of benefits you have, not only do you have the basics of health insurance, life insurance, and dental insurance, but you have different kinds of disability insurance. You have all the ancillary benefits. You have LifeLock, you have pet insurance, you have Disney dollars, which I like to call, it's really entertainment discounts, but you're competing with Fortune 500 companies and you have the same benefits that they make available to their employees. So you're able to compete in the marketplace for talent.
That's awesome. And so one of the things when we talk about, because a lot of what we do is we're running ads, right, to help find employees. And we talk about the benefits and we talk about work-life balance, but you made a great point there in the fact that with work-life balance, we're typically talking about they have a truck they can take home. They start their day and end their day in their driveway or dispatch from home. But just like you said, if they have these benefits covered where they know they have a large organization working on their behalf, it can give them that peace of mind, which is almost one of the work-life balance pieces of the puzzle of being able to know they're taken care of so they can focus on what they're doing.
Not only that, it goes actually beyond that because they have counseling services that are available where you can just pick up the phone, call an 800 number. And if you're having an issue with your child who may be misbehaving, or you're having a problem with your wife, you're not getting along with over this issue or that issue, there's somebody you can speak with that will help get you through that issue. If you're having financial problems, there's an 800 number to consultants to help you work out. Maybe you're over your head in debt and they'll help you figure out a way to take care of that. One of the things that I like to say is that we contribute to your employees' health, wealth, and wellness. And doing that, we will work with each one of their employees, spend about a half an hour to determine which of their health plans, and very often they have 4 or 6 health plans to choose. And we show them what the benefits are from each one of those plans, what the cost will be. And also we show them the best way to handle their coverage. I have a saying, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. And when you're dealing with health insurance, there are a lot of ways that you can reduce your taxable income, not only to the employee, but also to the employer. So let's say you're working in a state where you have a 30-40% tax obligation. If we can show you how to reduce, or show your employees how to reduce their taxable income by $15,000 or $20,000, that is a significant increase in their take home. And just to give you an idea of how that could work out, you have John and Joan, and they're a family with a child who's 4 or 5 years old, and little Johnny is going off to daycare. Well, they're spending at least $5,000 or more just for daycare for their child. If you have a dependent care account, that employee is able to shelter $5,000 a year for daycare services, elder care services. If you send your child to camp, I've heard of people that are able to deduct that as well. So there are some unique ways to reduce not only the taxable income to the employee, but also save the 7.65% of payroll taxes that the employer has to pay. Another example is using your health plan. You have a high deductible health plan. Well, you're entitled to open up a health savings account with your family. You can shelter over $8,500 a year in your health savings account. You have a 401k plan that typically costs employers between $2,500 and $3,000 just to set up, and then they can spend an extra $1,000 a year in ongoing administration. Well, with the PEOs that we work with, there's very little cost or no cost to the employer and a small cost to the employees. Again, if you're doing the right thing and you're making $100,000 a year and you're putting away 10% of your income, well, that's another $10,000 that you're sheltering. So I can show you many examples where we've been able to reduce an employee's income by $25,000 a year in taxable income, which comes right off the top, and will also save that employer the 7.65% in payroll taxes. So it's just not about health insurance and dental insurance and life insurance. There's a lot more that's involved.
Right. And that's the thing. And like I said, there's a lot of people that I talk to that are, like I said, that are in that smaller range. And they tell me it's like, well, we're looking at getting that. We're thinking about doing a contribution towards insurance and that kind of thing. So this is definitely would make sense for them to at least take this and explore it and look at what the opportunity is for them to see what they can set up for their company. And looking at it, when you mentioned the PEO, you mentioned it's the Professional Employee Organization. Is that what it is?
Very, very.
So with that, so one of the questions I know that popped into my head, which I'm sure has popped into theirs, when it comes to payroll, like they're handling the payroll, are they an employee of the company or are they an employee of the PEO? What does it say on their paycheck and how does that work?
Well, it's what's known as a co-employer relationship. So the PEO is what we would consider the administrative employer. They're handling all of the payroll. They're handling the unemployment claims. They're handling the workers' comps. They're going out and providing all of the benefits, which means they're the ones that are spending months on putting these plans together, negotiating the best rates, as opposed to the employer sitting down with a broker trying to figure out which insurance plans they want to work with and what contribution they're going to make to their employees. So typically, most of my clients select a fixed amount that they will contribute towards the employer, to the employee. And then the employee has, like I said, 4, 5, 6 different plans to choose from. So it's not the employer making the decision for the employee what kind of health insurance they're going to have. It is the employee. So if the employee wants rich coverage for his family and wants to spend a lot of money, he has that option. If he wants a high deductible health plan with a health savings account, he has that option. And again, not only do they have the PEO, but I'm there to work with the employee and the employer, advising them on what's the best way to go. And the relationship doesn't end with them going with the PEO. Really, that's where the relationship starts. Working with a PEO, they are truly partners in your business. They want to see you grow, because if you grow, they're going to. If I can help you grow, then I'm going to grow as well. So it's a win-win situation. It's a true partnership. I have clients that have been with me for 10, 12, 15 years. I guess I'm doing something right. So,
right. And you've learned a few things along the way. Right. So back to my question. So what does it say on their paycheck?
Oh, well, in some cases, it will have the name of the PEO. In some cases, it will be dual branded. And today, the truth of the matter is nobody gets a paycheck.
I know, it's direct
deposited. Or we can have a debit card and load it on a debit card. And typically that's the way it works.
Okay. So it's kind of invisible to the employee, other than
it's transparent. Yes.
I guess that's a better word for invisible.
And the best thing is, in the old days, everything used to be paperwork. Now, each employee has their own personalized employee portal. They go in there, they can select their PTO, they can change their beneficiaries, they can change their deductions. They have full access to their benefits. Instead of it taking 5 days to do open enrollment, it takes 5 minutes. The technology that is available is amazing, and it keeps getting better. As a matter of fact, one of the things that our clients like is that if you have people in the field, you're going to know where they are because of the GPS and the geofencing. So if somebody's at one job and they're leaving and they're going to another job, you're going to be able to make sure that they're going to that other job instead of.
So are you implanting a chip, or is it on their phone? How are you tracking them?
Well, maybe they're going to a movie or something. So.
So no, I mean, seriously, how do you know, how are you tracking them is what I'm asking.
Oh, it's all through GPS. It's all through the mobile app.
Right. So it's on the app. Okay, got it. Yeah. So yeah, because a lot of employers have tracking on their trucks, so they can kind of that same thing, right? So it's really kind of if they don't have that, then they might not need it. They don't have to invest in it because they'll have it with through the PEO.
And by the way, the other thing that's really important that might be valuable to your clientele is the workers' compensation angle. Very often, if you have, I like to say, you can't fix stupid, right? So if you've had a situation where a couple of employees have fallen off a ladder, or they slipped, or they've had injuries, typically what happens is your workers' comp carrier is going to pay the claim, and the client's workers' comp premium is going to go up and up, and there's no way to fix it. Their mod rate is their mod rate is their mod rate, and no matter who they go shopping with, they can't change that mod rate. Well, with the PEOs are In some cases, they have a $500,000 deductible or $1 million deductible on their workers' comp master policy, and they have the ability to reduce your mod rates, make you more competitive in the industry when you're out there bidding on projects. In addition to which, if you need a certificate of coverage for a project, instead of going to your broker and waiting 3 days to get it, you can get it on. You can do it online yourself in about 5 minutes. If you want to get started on that job right away, you have the ability to do it.
So in looking at it from the standpoint of like, I'm looking at this, I'm looking at the PEO, how is it determined what the employer pays the PEO? How is that? I know part of it is the employees paying it. They're making the decisions. The PEO is working with the employee on their coverages. What does that look like for the actual employer?
The typical PEO charges between $800 and $1,200 per employee per year, and it's broken down as a percentage of payroll or a flat fee per month per employee. If you think about the cost, because it's a cost. However, you're getting lots of services that the average small business doesn't get on their own. You're getting HR technology that if you wanted to go to a Bamboo, it might cost you $300 to $500 per employee. If you're doing payroll with a payroll company, depending on your cycle, that can run you between $300 and $500 per employee per year as well. So if you take all of the services that they provide and you calculate what the cost is, and then you calculate what the cost of the PEO is, typically you're saving a lot of money. It's not costing you anything. You're getting the PEO for free. You're able to attract and retain the talent that you need to be successful, and you're dealing with one entity that's going to handle it all for you. And by the way, when I talk about, you're basically getting what I call an off-site HR team. And these are people that have 15, 20 years of experience doing payroll, and their focus is on payroll. So if you have an issue with payroll, you're dealing with a payroll expert. If you have an issue with your health insurance and your benefits, you're dealing with somebody that typically has 10 years of experience working with that company and with that carrier, and they're available to answer your questions. All you have to do is pick up the phone and call. You can call them, you can call me. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. If you want, they handle all the OSHA. They'll send in risk managers to go over your work site and make sure that you're safe, and help you with different tools and classes so that your employees get safety training and they're doing the right thing. Because quite frankly, somebody falling off a ladder can be an extremely big claim. In the industry, we call it a shock claim. And the reason we do that is because when the claims person opens up the folder and sees that somebody cracked their head open and they're staring at a $250,000 claim, they get a shock.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I think back to my days, like working at a grocery store when somebody rolled one of the big blue boys over my foot and broke the bones in the top of my foot. I don't think it was a shock, but not only did they have to pay that, but I was out of work for like 4 weeks so I couldn't walk.
Well, what's important to remember is that these companies are risk management companies in the first place. In the second place, their workers' comp policies have these very, very high deductibles. So it behooves the PEO that, because every dime that they pay out comes right off the top. It's coming right out of their profit. Their job is to make sure that your employee, when he or she is injured, gets the proper medical care immediately, and they get back to work as soon as possible. Because every day that they're home collecting a check, it's not helping the employer. It's really not helping the employee, and it's costing the PEO. They try and stay on top of it. And let's say you have an employee that might be putting in a claim that isn't what we call kosher. So they twisted their knee playing football on a Sunday. Well, they're going to investigate it and make sure that claim is a real claim that happened on the work site or in the workplace, and not Sunday playing tag football or whatever event they were in.
Right. So walk me through. So the employee is out there, they're working on a garage door, they're on a ladder, they slip off a ladder and they hurt themselves. And they call in and say, I slipped, I hurt myself, I'm going to the hospital. So does the employer then call the PEO and they alert them to the claim, or
Absolutely?
So they let them know
the claim. They work with them on OSHA, do all of the filing, and they will advise the employer what steps to take, to document the claim in the first place, and to make sure that that employee is getting the care that they need immediately.
Right. So with that, and this may or may not be something that you know the answer to, I'm sure you do. And so like you see these things all the time. They blow them up on like the real life TV where the people like they have something and they've got somebody that's in their family that's ill and they're saying, oh, but it's not covered. Right. So does the PEO work with the insurance company, or is the PEO more like guiding the insurance company and those kind? I know that's kind of far fetched. I'm just kind of trying to understand the length that the PEO goes to help the employee with their medical issues, so to speak.
Well, again, most of these PEOs have departments that are focused on benefits and they deal with the insurance carriers directly. If somebody has an issue, they can't get to see a doctor, they will, first of all, most of them today have an 800 number that the employee can call and they will help them get through the system, because I will tell you the system is broken. And anybody that has experienced an illness or a disease and trying to manage it, they know what I speak of.
Cool. So that's the thing. So there is that peace of mind that there's going to be somebody there to help them. They can.
Well, not only that, they can always pick up the phone and they can call me. Some employees, they see, oh, they've got dental insurance, they got vision insurance. And the truth of the matter is, a lot of this coverage is great for the insurance companies, but it's not so great for the insured. So if you have, for instance, most people know if they require dental work. And if you require dental work, then dental insurance is probably really important. However, if you're just going for 2 cleanings a year, spending $40 a month on dental insurance, quite frankly, is ridiculous. So if you have a health savings account, what I would suggest is pay for those cleanings out of your health savings account. And the beauty of a health savings account is the money that employees put into the account, they don't pay any taxes on it.
Yeah.
The money that grows in the health savings account, depending on how they have it invested, if they invested at all, you don't pay any taxes on that either. And when you go to spend the money, as opposed to a 401k, you don't pay any taxes on that either. It really is a win-win-win for the employee. And they take the money that they would have spent on dental insurance or vision insurance, and they can put that money in the health savings account, and it reduces their taxable income.
And it's not complicated. I mean, we have a health savings account. Every year we put $8,500 in, and I have a debit card right here actually that is for the health savings account. I mean, it's how you just go, anything you do, whether you're buying prescriptions, whether you're going to the doctor, even the chiropractor. A lot of times chiropractic procedures aren't covered. It doesn't matter. The HSA, if that money's pre-tax money, you pay for it, and you're not having to file a claim or tell anybody or justify what you're doing with it, as long as it is for a medical expense, which is kind of
and again, it covers expenses that typically may not be covered under your health insurance plan. Sanitary napkins, that's an allowable expense. So it goes way beyond. I mean, there's 4 pages of items allowable under the health savings account. And by the way, Jody, you're terrific. Anytime you want to come work for me.
right. Yeah, so I have a question, and because there's a lot. This is to the fact that the majority of the people who work in this industry are male, right? And as we age, things happen, and this may or may not be something that is kind of like, for instance, TRT, right? Testosterone replacement therapy. Is that something you can pay for on an HSA account, or do you know?
So I have not had the experience myself.
Asking for a friend.
Does it sound like it's one of those gray areas? I would, again, if you have a doctor,
That's a doctor that has to prescribe it, that has to prescribe it.
all right, the insurance company more than likely is going to deny that claim. However, it will be covered under your HSA.
Right. Yeah, because there's a lot of things, like I injured my shoulder. Instead of having surgery, I had injections called the Wolverine protocol, which I guarantee you insurance doesn't cover, but I'm able to pay for with my HSA account because it is an injectable. But and the thing is, the insurance companies really should cover it because it reduces the need for surgery. Because I had that, there was either a $10,000 surgery or $3,500 worth of injections, and I didn't have to have surgery, and it was a torn labrum, and I can play golf again. So this is kind of off topic, but that's one of the things of having an HSA. You're able to make those decisions for yourself and not have to be tied to only getting the procedures that are covered by insurance, because without insurance, they're too expensive to pay for out of pocket.
Typically, I will get everybody in a group and I will explain to them how health insurance works, because I've been doing it since 1985. And I explain to business owners and employees that insurance companies are really not your friend. If you buy one of these very rich insurance plans that have a copay and a deductible and co-insurance, and you have a good year, they're not going to return any money to you. They're not going to send you a thank you card, and they will continue to pay their CEOs millions and millions of dollars.
Right.
So if you can cover the expensive stuff. If you know, God forbid, you have a catastrophic event and you're looking at a $1,000 claim, you know that that claim is going to be covered. Now, yes, you may have to come out of pocket $3 or $4 or $5,000, but at least you had the claim covered. The money that you saved by having a high deductible health plan, which could be $1,000 a month, by the way. Now you've taken that 12 grand and you've put it in your health savings account. Well, you can't put $12,000 in, but you can put in 500. And if you're over the age of 55, you can put in 9,500. So, of course, there's $1,000 catch.
You can take the other 3,000, put it in an IRA. So
you have a flexible spending account. So there are other avenues that we can go with that as well.
And the cool thing is with this, the way I see it, is the company, whoever sits down with the employee, to look at their exact situation to make the recommendations based on what their current situation is. Because if they're young and they're healthy and they don't have the need for as much coverage, that's fine. And if they're getting older, they're to the point where they are starting to have things that they need, they're going to the doctor more, those kind of things, then they're going to help them decide which is the coverage is going to be the best for them based on their situation, which is hard because even with an employer, whenever they make a decision on, okay, we're going to use this insurance company, it may not always be that insurance company making the best decision for the employee. They're making the best decision sometimes for themselves. So having an advocate, it's like having an employee advocate to help walk them through all of these pieces.
Well, and the other thing to remember, again, if you have 25 employees, we're able to reduce each employee's income on average by $10,000. You do the math, all right? We're saving them 7.65% on 25 employees times $10,000.
Right.
It's a significant number. You can probably hire somebody with the savings.
That's awesome. So in looking at this thing, as we kind of start wrapping up, what are the other things that we need to know? Because we talked about the benefits, the payroll, the workers' comp. Or is there anything else that's like a hot button that we need to think about as we start looking at?
HR compliance for a small business is essential. If you have an employee that touches another employee inappropriately, they can own your business. So it's important that whatever the issues are that come up, make sure that everything is documented. Should somebody go and seek legal counsel because you may have said the wrong thing, we have it all documented so that they can minimize whatever liabilities you might be facing. And the truth of the matter is, with a PEO, you can avoid those uncomfortable conversations by letting the PEO handle it for you, because typically they are the quote employer of record. The client company is we call the worksite employer. So the worksite employer tells the employees what to do, where to go, when to do it, how to do it. The PEO basically takes care of all the administrative crap, quite frankly, that most employers don't want to be involved with to begin with. You know that there's somebody there that you can always turn to make sure that you're in compliance and that your employees are happy. And quite frankly, if you've got happy employees, you're going to reduce turnover and you're going to get a better work product out of your people.
So what happens whenever you make the decision that you need to let someone go, whether it's for workforce performance, workplace performance, that kind of thing? How does that happen? Do you notify the PEO? Do you give them the note? How do they handle that?
What I recommend to my client is that they get hold of the HR, and everybody is designated to each client company. So you're going to have somebody that's responsible for HR compliance at that company for your company, for your firm. Typically what they'll do is they may have a conversation with the employee directly and see if they can resolve the issue first and foremost, because let's face it, not every situation calls for the termination of an employee. You just want to get them back on the right track. However, if that's not possible, then they're going to help handle the termination for you. You're going to make the ultimate decision, but they're going to handle the actual mechanics of the termination.
Right. So that takes care of not saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong.
Correct. Quite frankly, 10% of terminations wind up in court.
So, and then with the unemployment insurance, how does that?
You're right. You just let the PEO handle it because they're the administrative employer. So if they need to go down to it's not unemployment anymore, it's reemployment.
Yeah.
But they'll go down and they will handle all of that for you, so you don't have to. Which that saves you hours of time. And today it's video anyway, but they handle all.
So another question is, so we have some of our clients that are a little bit larger that have multiple locations. So they have remote, or they have like CSRs, customer service representatives, that are remote. They're in other states than where their headquarters is. Does it work for that as well?
That's one of the best reasons to go with the PEO, because if you're in 5 different states, each state has their own employment rules and regulations and payroll issues. And again, these are people that have done payroll for 15 years, all 50 states, and their experience with the do's and don'ts of each state. And quite frankly, states like California and New York, they're like their own little country. So it's important to know that you have knowledgeable people that can handle your payroll professionally, and you don't have any oops at year end.
So this is all great. So how do they get in touch with you? It sounds like something that everybody should take advantage of if they don't already have these things established, or even if they're starting to get them set up, or even if they haven't established, but it's just a nightmare, they should be talking to you. So how do they get in touch with you? What's the easiest way to do that?
Well, they can call me directly. I'm not shy. My phone number is 561-843-4333. They can send me a text, or they can email me to bruce.silver@hrxnetwork.com.
Or they can go to the website and fill out a form, right?
They can, but I think the best thing is to pick up the phone and call me.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times people are like, they're shy to do that because there's never a good time for a cold call, right? So probably texting and saying, hey, I would say to text, but we're going to put all that information on the screen so they have that. And also make it so that wherever they're listening to it, they can back it up and listen to that part again. But if I said, but the website is hrxnetwork.com, right?
Correct.
Cool. Well, Bruce, it has been an absolute pleasure getting to know this. I know, like I said, we've known each other a long time, and I've even done stuff for you like 15 years ago, but I know way more now than I even did then about how all this works and what it does. And it's probably something that we should be looking at ourselves as well.
Well, Jody, it's good seeing you too. And you haven't aged a week.
Yeah, it's the filter. It's not anything, because if I said, if you turn the filter off, I look like the crypt keeper. So anyway, but thanks again for taking the time to be here and sharing all this information. I can't wait to get it.
Yeah.
And get that, but you did a great job explaining it and making it so that they can see the relevance of it. So thank you again, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Jody. Have a great one.